What's up, everybody? Welcome to the YouTube channel. Hit that like button, subscribe. We appreciate it. Brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Maybe the Browns game was the heart attack that makes Kyle Shanahan change his diet, exercise a little more, make a few lifestyle changes. Not a big heart attack, just a scare, but you can adjust off a scare. This is what Jim Schwartz, who, by the way, why is it that every time Kyle Shanahan beats Sean McVay, I get some update on Shanahan being McVay's daddy, but Jim Schwartz is clearly Kyle's daddy, and Browns fans are nowhere to be found on the Photoshop. I know it's they called it. It's the stat was the latest in a season the Browns have beaten an undefeated team since the 1960s. So maybe the Photoshop skills, they're not used to fun photo, like positive Photoshops, but just an aside. Anyway, this is what Jim Schwartz said last week going into the game about Kyle Shanahan.
And to coach.
Let's start that again.
My greatest compliment to coaches is that they evolve over time, and I think that what we defended back in 2008 was a little bit different than for Houston, what he did in Washington, what he did in Cleveland here, what he did in Atlanta, and what he's doing in San Francisco, and he does a good job of scheming for his players. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. You're not out there trying to stop a play caller. You're out there trying to stop his players.
And there's nobody that Kyle Shanahan likes scheming more for right now than Christian McCaffrey. 133 touches through 6 games for McCaffrey. That is almost 100 more touches than Debo. Let me say that again. 133 touches for Christian McCaffrey. That pace of 22 touches per game is on a pace that would not be Christian's career high, but would be extremely high, 376. And I'll repeat, 133 touches for McCaffrey. Debo has 38. Ayuk has 25. Elijah Mitchell is 21. Somehow, I feel like I've barely seen Elijah Mitchell, and somehow he has more touches than George Kittle. So what Jim Schwartz says is a compliment. Jim Schwartz is dominated by wins and losses, head-to-head matchups with Kyle Shanahan. And what he says is a compliment. Basically, I'm not beating the same Kyle Shanahan I beat 10 years ago. Well, not quite 10, but basically 10 years ago. This guy evolves, which is, I think, a great compliment. Jim Schwartz, that is a great compliment. But the question is, can Kyle Shanahan evolve right now in this moment with this team as he's trying to win a championship? All gas, no brakes is great until something breaks. And against the Browns, 2 things broke. McCaffrey got hurt, Debo got hurt. Now, Christian still played a healthy amount of that game before he got hurt, or a good portion of the game before he got hurt. Debo Samuel did not play much of that game with that shoulder injury. And the good news for the Niners is it doesn't sound like, if this was in heart attack terms, a serious heart attack, but nothing actually broke. But at this pace, with both of these guys, the physicality, and particularly with McCaffrey, now, Kyle Shanahan's had basically a season plus of Christian McCaffrey. This was the Niners' 6th game. He played 11 last year, plus the postseason. So it's 17 games and change. And he might look at the historical on McCaffrey and say, Christian can do this. And he's right. I mean, Christian McCaffrey has had seasons. In fact, years 2 and year 3 were the seasons that he was unstoppable, indefatigable, never stopped in 2018 and 2019. In 2018, that was his second year in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey had 326 touches, which is 50 less than he's on pace for right now. The next year, 2019, the historic season, he led the NFL in touches with 403. So on one hand, you could look at that and go, McCaffrey can handle that workload. What came after the 403 touch season was 2 seasons in which he combined to play in 10 games. Now, if you told Kyle Shanahan this year you're going to win the Super Bowl, and next year you're going to get another 400 touches, 350 to 400 touches out of McCaffrey, and then in the next 2 years he'll only be available in 10 games, he would make that trade in a heartbeat. And I would make that trade for him in a heartbeat. But that was a young year 2 and year 3 Christian McCaffrey. That was a lot more thicker, fresher tread on the tires Christian McCaffrey. This is different. And in part, what's different about it is he's already been banged up multiple times. You've gotten these scares multiple times. John and I talked about it on the podcast yesterday, which is available down in the description below. McCaffrey has been mostly available to the 49ers since he came here, but we've had multiple games in which he's had to leave the game, stay out of the game, can't come back into the game. Is he going to be back next week? And of course he does. He touches the ball. The guy with the ball gets hit the most, and he touches the ball a ton. So at this pace, you'd have to be pretty concerned that he's going to be available for the remaining season. And when I say the remaining season, I mean the remaining season. The 49ers, if they want to win a Super Bowl, have 14 to 15 games left. So there still is kind of like, if you don't get the first round bye, there's 15 games left from today. Okay. That's that's another season. That's a season of football still to play that you got to get him through. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean sit Christian on Monday. It doesn't mean take McCaffrey from 22 touches a game to 5, but it means what we've been talking about from the beginning. And John and I wouldn't say disagreed about it, but just talked about Elijah Mitchell yesterday a little bit. And he said, give me some more Ty Davis Price. And I didn't disagree. I was just thinking about it this morning. Like, Elijah Mitchell has been the best of that group that you've had, of those other 3 guys. He's been the best. He's never played a full season, but you don't need him to right now. This is year 3 for him. He's been injury plagued. Like, forget about getting hurt in games. He's getting hurt in practices. It's happened multiple times already in the last 2 months that he's been hurt in practices, doing who knows what. But once upon a time, you liked him. So step 1 to alleviating some of the pressure on Christian, to me, is see if you can get Elijah Mitchell going. And that starts on Monday night. See if you can get him in some sort of rhythm. See if the player that you think is in there, or at least we all saw was once in there, is still in there. But, and I'll give John this to the point yesterday on Ty Davis Price, what we know is that Elijah Mitchell alone is not going to be enough. Getting Elijah Mitchell going helps you a few games. It doesn't help you for the remaining 11 plus 3 or 4 or 5, because he's just not reliable enough. So you also got to find a way to work those other guys in. And the good news is you can do that by taking some of Debo's carries, and you can do that by taking some of McCaffrey's carries. You've got 3 active running backs for every game, plus Debo Samuel. So there are enough guys to pass that rock around before you get to Ty Davis Price, who, I understand they don't trust him as much, maybe from a blitz standpoint, but also from a ball security standpoint. So that's fine. But if McCaffrey's out, by all means, give Ty Davis Price five tugs. Because listen to the other thing Jim Schwartz said last week, and then we'll go back to the numbers. Just think about this. Actually, I'm not going to go back to the numbers. I'll tell you the numbers then again, and then we'll play it. McCaffrey, 133 touches. Debo, 38. Ayuk, 25. Kittle, 18. Elijah Mitchell, more than Kittle, 21. And he is not in the group of players that we talk about when we talk about, look at all the weapons the Niners have. Like, I'd rather go to Jennings. I'd rather go to Kyle Juszczyk. Jennings has 7 touches this year. Juszczyk has 9 touches this year. Ray's got 6 touches this year. Okay, so just keep all that in mind, and let's go back. Here is more of Kyle Shanahan's daddy. Sorry. Here's more Jim Schwartz.
Thing that stands out is they have so many multi-purpose players, multi-position players. I think a common thing is people say positionless players. These guys aren't positionless. They have multi-positions.
First of all, before we go on with Jim Schwartz, that's a cool. I had not heard that anybody say that before. They're not positionless; they're multi-position. Positionless sometimes, it's like we got this linebacker, he's positionless, but he's not really a safety, and he's not really a linebacker, and he's just kind of stuck. Jim Schwartz is making the point that no, that's not what this is. You got multiple positions for guys. That's cool. So now let's keep going here. Remember the numbers. McCaffrey 133, Debo 38, Ayuk 25, Juszczyk 15, Jennings 9, Kittle 18. More here.
McCaffrey can be a wideout. He can be a running back. Debo can be a wideout. He can be a running back. Kittle can be a tight end. He can be a wideout. Juszczyk can be a fullback. He can be a tight end. He can be a wideout.
Wait, hold on.
Carry
Who?
the ball. Be a fullback. Juszczyk can be.
Juszczyk? This man, our boy was in the top 100 last year. He is a Pro Bowler every year, like legit Pro Bowler, like on the real vote, not on seventh subs, that's fine too, but all pro. Kyle Juszczyk. Let's go back to Jim Schwartz, who probably just calls him 44.
Juszczyk can be.
Juszczyk. You got the juice right, but not the lick.
Juszczyk can be.
Well, that doesn't invalidate his other points. Coaches, I've been around a lot of them. Their names are not they're not broadcasters. But you'd think Juszczyk, somebody you'd get his name down by now. We're not asking you to spell it, but anyway, I'm not offended. Maybe Kyle is, but I'm offended for Kyle. No. So what does he do? He goes through all these guys. Like, look at all these guys. Then you go back to the numbers of touches, and it's not at all balanced in the way that Jim Schwartz views it, right? Jim Schwartz, that was good insight. He's like, they got all these guys. Then you go to the numbers. McCaffrey, 133 touches. Debo, 38. So it doesn't have to be balanced, but maybe it can be a little more balanced. I mean, you could, give Ayuk some of these, give Ayuk an end around or two with jet sweep. Hell, just because Debo's healthy doesn't mean you can't run the play. I mean, it was an effective play. It's been an effective play with Ray McLeod. So, I know Ray's out there running Debo's plays. I'm not trying to take Debo's snaps away, but Ray can run the play. Give him one of those. One less collision for Debo. That'd be great. So Elijah Mitchell's still around. Means you still believe in him. So if he's healthy, try and get him going. Because I think one thing is, I don't know if it's clear, but it looks like Elijah Mitchell as like an occasional pinch hitter throughout the game, not that effective. Mason is better as you're going to get 2 carries here in the second quarter. You're going to get a carry in the third quarter. Mason's been better at that. Mitchell is does not look like the battering ram, explosive, hit the hole and just go and pick up 7 yards guy that he's been before when he was healthy. So see if you can make him that guy, because if you can't, then there's no point in having him active. And as I said, he doesn't look like he can be the guy that can just get a touch here, a touch there, and give you the impact you're looking for. Niner Gang said there used to be an all-pro fullback, but not anymore. All right, but I mean, you're in the top 100. You get it. I'm giving him a little bit. David says, can't lose sight that this was a close game. Just because Schwartz's team won doesn't mean he owns Shanahan. Niners almost won. Well, he's 1-8 against Kyle now, and it was Kyle's lowest yardage output since the first game he coached as the Niners, so as the Niners head coach. So obviously we're being a little tongue in cheek. He's not his daddy, but I mean, it's Pedro Martinez once said, but yeah, I mean, he's kind of got the antidote. Now, is it the secret? Right? There's been some talk of that. Like, did he give the blueprint? He didn't give the blueprint. He's been doing this, and he's got excellent players. Now, I did a video the other day about Purdy's performance, and some people, it was not a podcast, it was video only, took it as like excuses for Brock. I saw a lot of the comments were like, just, accept the fact that Brock wasn't good. I gave him a D grade, so he wasn't good. But if you missed that video, one of the stats from that video was that of the 30 pockets that Brock had, only 7 of them were clean, only 3 clean pockets in the second half of that game. And then I went through the reasons why. Like, let's go through the reasons why. Jim Schwartz is a good coach and has had success against Kyle Shanahan. His defense, very good. What does that mean? Excellent pass rush and wide receivers that made it really hard. Like when you watch that game again on the L22 #film study, grind the tape, what you see is that the Browns defensive backs did an excellent job of making sure that 49ers receivers, not only did they not get much separation, but we've seen Niners, Juwan Jennings makes a ton of contested catches. Debo makes contested catches. Ayuk makes contested catches. At the moment when they tried to get out of a break, they did not get out of their breaks clean because not only did Browns cornerbacks stick on their hip, but they were physical with them throughout the route. So that is a skill that the Browns have. There are other teams that have that skill. We'll see. We'll see how they play the Eagles. We didn't really get to see it last year. We'll see maybe how do they play Detroit, right, in the playoffs if Detroit has their healthy defensive backfield. They could, maybe Detroit could do it, right? There are these teams that can do that kind of stuff. Debo and McCaffrey were hurt. It was raining, right? These are all, none of those things are excuses, because if you're going to win a championship, you have to play against good coaches. You have to play against good defenses. You have to win on the road against good corners. You got to win. You're going to have hurt players and it's going to be wet. So when we get those circumstances again, I know for me, like when you set it up again, road game, good defense, talent, maybe a little rain, like all those things, we go, all right, do you guys have the pitch that beats that, or can you hit this pitch? I don't know. We don't know right now if this team can beat that pitch, but the thing you're trying to control is, can we at least ensure, if you're them, can you at least ensure that you've got your best players being healthy? What the other thing Schwartz said there was, you're not trying to stop the other coordinator, you're trying to stop his players. And, you need those guys on the field. Now, I get it. Like, part of the thing with Kyle is funny, right, is that he gets the genius stuff, and I think he's one of the best coaches in this era, let alone in the league right now, pro Kyle Shanahan. But what I love about it, what I love about his offense is that so much of it is predicated on just the basic physicality of running the football. And, it would be helpful if they could find a way to do that with he's done it throughout his whole career. When the Niners went to the Super Bowl, he did it without Christian McCaffrey. Tevin Coleman got 158 catches. Raheem Mostert got 151 touches. Matt Breida got 142 touches. Very evenly distributed. This is not going to be that evenly distributed. And it's tough because anytime you give McCaffrey the ball, it can be a touchdown from anywhere on the field. So it's tempting and it's tough, and you're trying to win these individual games and the margins are thin and there's the right thing to do and all of that. But there's got to be some way to reduce his workload a little bit. You have other good players right now who aren't really touching the football that much. McCaffrey is head and shoulders better than the other running backs on the roster. He's head and shoulders better than all the running backs on most of the rosters. Every sport, it gets tight in the playoffs. It's the best of the best. One thing I did learn, we need the playoffs in California. I don't want to see Brock anywhere near bad weather after that. Yeah, in an ideal world, you can avoid it, but the Niners are a good bad weather team. And, I think the good thing for them, there is not in the NFC right now an elite pick you apart quarterback. And so, whereas like a couple years ago, the crazy Packer game on the road, like that's a game that you wanted on the road because they had Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and you're the one that needs to muck that game up a little bit. Now, you're fine. We'll go toe to toe with Dak and all his weapons in perfect weather. You'll go toe to toe. You'd rather, Jalen Hurts, right? with Goff, Detroit's I've come around on how tough they are, how good they are. I still think the Niners know how to go toe to toe with Jared Goff. Obviously, you just don't have that team in the NFC that has that quarterback that I think Aaron Rodgers said it after that game. Like, we would have preferred to play that game in good weather. And that's the good news. So from this standpoint, in this year, even though this is an organization that's won on the road in the playoffs, in this year, this is true. That said, it's hard to control. And you might end up in Philly in the cold, in the rain. You might not. But it's more than just the rain. I mean, it's also the defense. Coming from Illadre, coming from a Cardinals fan, y'all got cheated on the game. Pass interference call was BS. These things happen. You got to overcome. They happen, and you have to. It's going to happen again. It happens to every team. Every team that's ever won a Super Bowl has had bad calls go against them and good calls go for them. It's just, you understand why these coaches go insane, because there's all these little plays that affect. I don't blame Moody. The Niners did so many things to lose that game. When you play that poorly, you kind of deserve to lose. Chris, I am over it. This is not about the Browns game, though. I mean, if you're over the Browns loss, that's fine. But there are things that came out of that game. And getting Debo and McCaffrey hurt in the same game is a minor heart attack. And the question is do you come out of there going, you know what? Okay, less sausage. McCaffrey's the sausage, man. McCaffrey is the sausage. Wet ball definitely a factor with Purdy's accuracy. Is he going to be a glove guy? Never a sign of confidence when your quarterback has to become glove guy. Can he pick it? 2 gloves. Bad look. Immediate. When you see 2-glove quarterback, it's an immediate sign that now Brady went 1 glove. You see 2-glove guy. I don't think Brock's going to be 2-glove guy. Brady went glove, and it's like, all right, Brady can go glove. We can go glove. Will be interesting. I mean, Jimmy never had to go glove, same hand size. So we'll see. I'm not convinced that he has to go glove. I'd be curious to, really get his breakdown on this throw versus that throw versus that throw. The ball that got a lot of attention was that deep sideline ball to Kittle. It was I thought it was a tough throw. So, we'll see. I don't know. I'd love to hear from Brock. Let's go through all these throws, Brock. Did the ball slip? Was grip a problem here? Chris adds, Shanahan should have continued with the run game, especially in that last play, to get more yards from Moody. Ayuk should have caught some of those throws. Purdy should have been more accurate. The play we never got a replay on, and it was hard to see on the L22, hashtag film study grind tape, was the far side. Niners are going right to left, far sideline. Ayuk has to dive for a ball at the sideline. Doesn't catch it. Hard to tell. I didn't know what to make of that play. How rainy is Iowa? Adam asks. Well, you'd think generally rainy, but Brock only played in one real downpour in his career. And that was against Drake. I watched the highlights of that game today on YouTube. It was a monsoon. It was like one of those, like kind of the late Bears game. What the Niners played the Bears game last year, and remember, got late monsoony. Niners at the Ravens a few years ago, monsoony. It was just like, the field is muddy. You can barely see the lines, or the lines are, some of them blurred by the mud. It was that level. It was one of those games where I flipped on the highlights thinking, all right, let's see Brock in the rain. And then when I saw that game, I was like, this is extreme. Like, no, but I don't care what you can have size 14 hands in that weather. You're not going to be able to throw the ball very effectively. That said, the guy that beat him at quarterback, I think, is an insurance adjuster now. So he had a good game. He's probably loving this. Brock did a great job getting us in the field goal range, was happy with the late game drive. Feel terrible for Moody. Late game drive was very good. First drive of the game was also good. The late game drive was something, you know. Remember the stat that last year in the NFL, the 3 quarterbacks with the fewest, it was I think it's fourth quarter while trailing, the fewest pass attempts in that situation last year was Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Brock Purdy. So, you know, when you say that, like, he hasn't had late game-winning drive situations, I said that like a month or two ago, and like, hey, this is what's still on the menu of things we haven't seen yet from him. That's on there, still is. Somebody said, no, he already proved it. He did it against the Raiders last year. Okay, doing it once and like building a resume of I can handle these situations are two different things. So the Niners did not pass the test of doing it this last week. If you wanted to look for a positive, one would be in that situation, got to have it throws, can't turn it over, all that type of stuff. Brock was good. You know, they didn't do it ultimately, but he made some good throws. And as I said the other day, I think the other thing that really stands out, there's so much going on with their offense. He's got to know so much, right? Juszczyk's got to shift. Kittle's got to shift. Ray's got to go over here, kick out the running back, bring him back in, whatever. Under pressure, that's a lot. And he does not seem fazed at all by that. That's a good sign. That's a very good sign. So defense also changes, you know, in that spot. But I thought it was a good sign. Yeah, it was a good sign. This we give grades on these games, but it takes a lot of time to build up. You know, it's why I keep saying before Brock had the game he had the other day, and people are like, you know, it's BS to even talk, like the disrespect that Brock gets and the fact that everyone hasn't bought in already and blah, 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 blah. Nobody's career has been made in one season. Okay. So that's the fun of this. It's why I love watching Brock Purdy. It's why I love talking to you guys about Brock Purdy or talking to anybody about Brock Purdy. It's just one of the best topics in sports. Watching a player who might be really good at a critical position on a good team grow and evolve, and we don't know yet which direction his career is going to go. It's one of the most fun things in sports. It happened, you know, we got to go through it with Kaepernick. We went through it with, you know, in the Bay Area, Steph Curry early in his career. Remember, that was a guy who had these ankle issues and the team was getting better, and it was clear he had some, but there was like all these opinions, is he good enough? Is he not good enough? That to me is way more fun to talk about because it involves forward looking and projecting as opposed to like, let's rank the greatest, like argue about LeBron or Michael or Magic or Steph. That's all looking in the rear view. That's less fun than like trying to figure out and make predictions. Who's going to be right about this? Who's going to be wrong about this? And then you add to it, he's a human being. So he gets to also improve and get better and watch film and all of that stuff. And you're trying to win. It's just, I know I've said it. It's just the best. There's a million examples of watching guys, young Lincecum, going, what is this going to be? Could this really be what we think it's going to be? It's what's made Russell Wilson's career so interesting. Is that we thought we knew exactly what it was going to be. And then it stopped being that to the point that we're like, no, it couldn't have stopped being that. Like, once you're great, you don't just lose it. So that's why I like watching the Broncos, because I watch the Broncos in disbelief. Like, is it just gone? Anyway, so I you know, I say all that to say we're in the middle of it right now. And I'm not going to shout anyone down who's like, he ain't got it. I'm not buying it. like right now you have to buy that he's got it right now. But if somebody says like he's not going to be a star, he's going to be average. That's like that is a legitimate opinion when we're talking about 15 games of somebody's career, whatever the number is. So let's just, let's just watch it. Let's just watch it. I feel good about it. And when it takes this long to have a bad game, that's a good sign. It's probably also a sign that it's not always going to be that easy. That's okay. You got to win with your B and your C games a lot. That's life. I keep saying it. That is, you don't feel good today. You didn't get a good night's sleep. You missed breakfast. You got a stomach ache. You don't get to just shut it down and wait till you're 100% and go again tomorrow. Like you got to get through it. And that's this. And that's why it's so fun. And it's not black and white. And that's why I love watching the game again going, he wasn't good today, but that last drive was good. And that's what's fun about Monday night. Like, how does he respond now? The next time it rains, how does he look? The next time they play a wide 9, good defensive coordinator with legit corners, can they do it? What's the answer? I know McCaffrey can ball. Can they just dial it back a little? So, all this stuff is fun. A couple more comments. Mason needs to sit with the offensive line coach to figure out pass protection if he wants to take over as number 2. Once upon a reset, Kyle is his own worst enemy. Not understanding how to best incorporate all his weapons into his offense is indefensible. 2 targets for Kittle on Sunday, beyond baffling. I think it's really hard for them, or any offense. Trent Williams said something after the game that I thought was really insightful. Trent said, when you are in 3rd and long, it cuts out 80% of your playbook. That's what Trent Williams said, which I'd never heard anybody say that. I've never heard anybody put a number on it. Like we know it. I've heard guys say like, cut your playbook in half. Trent says it cuts 80% of your playbook in 3rd and long. They were in a lot of 3rd and long. They were in a lot of like first down going the wrong way. And they didn't have the answer for it. They definitely didn't have the answer for it, but I don't think most people have the answer in those situations. You got to stay out of those situations. Part of that is being efficient on first down. The missed tackles, very telling sign of a team not ready to play all out. Dre Greenlaw's, missed Dre Greenlaw. Definitely missed Dre Greenlaw. Good defense makes good QBs look bad all the time. It's true. I mean, ultimately, you got to beat those guys. Roy, only thing that stopped this offense is injuries. I don't know if I don't think I agree with that. Although that it's clearly, I mean, it's probably number 2 on the list, but there are times where they self-inflict, and when they get like knocked a little off their axis, it takes them a while sometimes to get you. It can look bad real fast because like the bubble screens and the run plays, when they don't pop, it feels like you are afraid to push. But Juice and Kittle need to be used more in the pass game. Both have taken a back seat since Debo and CMC. I actually think they've incorporated use check more. What did I say? I said Kyle has 18 touches this year. I think he had like 22, or maybe those are his. Let's look real quick. Maybe I'm thinking of his carries last year. JUSZCZYK. Got that sucker right. Use check, touches. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I was thinking of his carries from last year, but he's still 6 games in on a pace that I think would probably be a career high, because Juszczyk has 9. That's incorrect. Hold on. Did I say 9? Is that correct? 9 touches? He had 26 touches last year. 26 touches last year. So he's on exactly that pace this year. I thought he had more than that. Marco Amendola. How many touches per game do you want McCaffrey to get to preserve him for a deep run? Good question. I think it's really hard to put a number on it. I think it's more about just watching the game and feeling like it's not just him getting all the carries early. So I don't know if that means 16 touches instead of 24 in a tight game. It means all the touches in the fourth quarter. But you go back to early weeks blowouts games that look like blowouts where he's still carrying the ball up multiple scores in the second half. Doesn't mean you got to bench him, but I just think it means I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question, Marco. I don't have a number in mind so much as like when we watch these games, we all feel it. Like he's the only guy getting the carries. You know what it also means? It also means you want to get on the ball. Maybe instead of a carry, let's line him up in the slot over here today 5 times instead of 3 or whatever the number is. It's also about where you get him. Like I've always said this about Debo. Debo's receptions are different than Ayuk's receptions because a lot of Debo's touch, not all of them, but a lot of Debo's touches happen right around the line of scrimmage. So when you swing pass and he's got to run through and there's like 2 guys trying to block and he's stepping through and here come the left tackle to lead out and he's going to try and cut it back up into the hash. And now he's running through traffic, right? That play, there are 7 people around him when he falls. The downfield ball, there's like 2 guys around you when you get tackled or pushed out of bounds or when you fall or whatever. And so where you catch the ball on the field, do you catch it within 5 yards line of scrimmage or do you catch it 8 yards down? You catch it 8 yards down the field. There's less people around you. And the people that are around you weigh less. Like their body mass is half. Some guy 190 is trying to tackle you around the ankles as opposed to 2 guys at 290 falling on you. So I would say that, where the contact happens, I think is a big deal. McCaffrey's contact happens against the strongest guys running downhill, the most people, the biggest crowds. And that's why I think running backs get hurt too, is like they're driving their car through a lot of traffic, if I said drive slower, there's a difference between driving 80 on an open highway and driving 80 on not an open highway. Cars everywhere. Well, McCaffrey's driving 80 through fucking five lanes of big rigs. It's crazy. Like let's get McCaffrey on an access road. And they do. I mean, it's not like they don't. But anyway. All right. On that note, this went a little longer than planned, but that's okay. Had fun. Thanks for jumping in, everybody. Don't forget, like this video. That helps the video get to more people. So you become a sponsor of the show for no money when you like the video. Tito's pays money. They are the sponsor of Haberman and Middlekauff, this YouTube channel and our podcast, crafted to be savored responsibly. So do that for sure. But like the video, subscribe to the channel. When you do that, the algo sends the video out to more people see it, more people watch it, maybe more people like and subscribe, and we got a good little thing going. So we appreciate that. Get the momentum rolling. Have a great rest of the Wednesday, and talk to you all soon. Thanks for participating. Later.